Hello everyone, welcome you all. In this video, we are going to learn how to write queries and perform aggregations in SQL. Before we move to MySQL Workbench, let us see what we are going to create. Well, as we have studied in the previous video, a database is a place where we are storing multiple tables, and in multiple tables, we have multiple columns through which we are storing the data. Let me name this database as IMDb database. Now in this database, we are having multiple tables as you can see, movies, genre, director mapping, role mapping, names and ratings. These are all the tables that we have in this IMDb database. Now in each of these tables, let's say in movies table, we are having multiple columns like ID column, title, year, date published, duration, country and so on. Similarly, we have another set of columns in another table like movie ID and genre in table genre. In director mapping, we are having movie ID and name ID. So to summarize, I have created a ERD diagram through which we can get a clear idea about which tables has what columns. So as we can see here in the table movie, we are having ID, title, year, date published, duration, country, worldwide gross income and so on. Similarly, for the genre table, we are having movie ID and genre. Next, director mapping, we are having movie ID and name ID as the column. So we want to create these tables and columns in MySQL Workbench. So we have seen this screen in the previous video. So I will be double clicking on this and it will take me to this blank screen. Now, as I named our database as IMDb database, let me first create a database. It is always a good practice to start with a comment, creating and using the database. Now my database name is IMDb. I'm writing create database IMDb. Next, I will be writing use IMDb. Because in the upcoming queries that I will write, I am going to refer to this database IMDb. That's why we are writing use IMDb. Now, the first table was movie, right? So I will be writing create table movie, open a parenthesis. In the movie table, so we had ID, title, year, date published and so on. So I have to create these columns one by one. First column name was ID. It can take characters. So I'm writing ID varchar 10. That means it will take 10 characters to the max. Then the next column was title. It can also take characters. Let's say 200 characters it can take. Default, null. Year, since year is also an integer data type, so that's why int. Then next was date published. Now it's a date data type. So I'm writing date, default, null. Then duration is also an integer. Country, next we had worldwide gross income. Varchar, let's say 30. Then it was languages, varchar 200. And the last one was production company. That is varchar, let's say 200. So let us check once if all the columns we have considered or not. So we had ID, title, year, date published, duration, country, worldwide gross income, languages, and production company. So yes, we have listed down all the columns. Now once it is done, we have to define one primary key. Now what is primary key? Primary key is that particular column through which, if we want to merge any table with another table in the future, we will be merging it through that column. So I will define primary key as ID. Then I will close the parenthesis that I have opened in the beginning with a semicolon. Then we have to select it completely and then hit on this option. It will run our queries, and you can see here in the action output screen that it has been executed. Next, if I want to see that what all columns has been created, you can write as describe. Our table name is movie, so describe movie and run it. Now you can see that in this table we are having these fields: ID, title, year, date published, duration, country, worldwide gross income, languages, and production company. What is the data type it can hold, and whether it's a null or not null column. That means whether it will take a missing value or a blank cell in a column or not. Similarly, now the next table we had was genre. Let me highlight the columns of genre in some different color. We have movie ID and genre in the genre table. So in a similar manner, I will be now writing down create table genre. Open the parenthesis and write movie ID, because it was the first column we had, comma. Then the next column we had was genre varchar. Let it take 20 characters. Next, I have to define the primary key. Let me make movie ID as the primary key. Once it is done, then you have to close the parenthesis with a semicolon and you can run this part. You can see in the action output, it has been executed. Now next I can see what all columns has been created under the table genre. So describe genre. Now let me run this part. And you can see in the output screen that in the table genre we had movie ID and genre. Similarly, I can create all such tables along with the columns. So similarly, I have created the tables and the columns for the remaining ones: director mapping, role mapping, names, and ratings, where I have listed down all the column names each of the table is having. Now let me run it once for all. So here you can see in the action output, it has been executed. If I refresh on the schemas, I can see IMDb database. Now if I click on the tables, now it has director mapping, genre, movie, names, ratings, role mapping. And in each one of them, what are the columns it is having. So I can click on columns and see ID, name, height, date of birth, known for movies under the name table. Whereas in the movie table, we are having the column as ID, title, year, date published, and so on. Now let me also write show tables. So it is showing that we are having director mapping, genre, movie, names, ratings, role mappings as the table in our database. Similar to what we have seen it here. We have movies, genre, director mapping, role mapping, names, and ratings. So all the tables has been created along with the column headers. Now in the next video, we will see how to insert the values in these columns. like these movie IDs, ratings, total votes, median rating, etc. With this, we have come to the end of the video. Up next, we will see inserting values in tables. See you then. Bye bye.